Here we are today, September 22nd. We're ready to get going again, and we have a wonderful guest on our first show of the season, and it is Heather Davis, and she and her husband Jason run Cayford Orchards, located at 99 Hilton Hill Road in Skowhegan. And for any of you who somehow don't know where this orchard is, I think almost all of you I'm sure do, but it's located approximately about 3 miles north of Skowhegan. And if you're coming from Skowhegan, you take that right onto Hilton Hill Road, and about a half mile up and you are there, and there is a beautiful, colorful display around Cayford Orchards right now with a bunch of pumpkins, which we will show you in a minute. But we're actually inside the store now, and what a display in here too. So tell me, how are things going?
Things are going great. I appreciate you guys coming up and checking things out. It is a wonderful time of year. Everything is beautifully colored. You know, you get all the different colored apples and pumpkins and squash and gourds, and so it's my favorite time of year. And the crisp fall air is perfect too. It makes everybody want to mull some cider and pick some apples and carve a pumpkin. So good times ahead of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If we could just get a few more bright sunny days, we would be happy with that. Unfortunately, the weather hasn't been incredibly cooperative. How does the rain, or all the rain that we've had, impact the apple crop?
Well, I mean, apples grow the most towards the end of their growing season, so they're acting like little sponges. Of course, they're all full size right now, but they're just going to keep growing and getting bigger and bigger with all this rain that's happening. It does put a little bit of a hinder on the pick your own, but it's still amazing to me how many people will come out in their rubber boots and grab their tote bags and off they go to pick, and the rain doesn't seem to bother them that much.
Now let's get a little history here, Heather, and I'm sure you can provide us some. This is a truly family affair.
It is.
And it's been in the family for a long time, and if I recollect, it's like 6 generations. You guys are the 6th generation?
Yep. So my husband, it was his family's farm. He is 6th generation to be here running the farm. We're about 3 years away from the farm being here for 200 years. My kids are involved in it. They're the 7th generation. We have 2 grandbabies now that are being raised here on the farm also. So currently we're raising the 8th generation here.
Oh my goodness. And I'm sure it's going to go on for a long time.
I would hope so.
Yeah. You have what appears to be a very successful orchard, and I read in one article that Main Street Skowhegan did on you a few years back that Yankee magazine had said that you were one of the best orchards in New England.
Yes, so that specific article came to us kind of as a surprise. Typically people who want to come up and interview us make appointments and come in, and we talk to them about what's going on. And they did it completely undercover. We had no idea that this was going on, and our customers and some new faces kept coming in and say, oh, you know, you're the best orchard around, and we joke back with them and be like, of course we are, that's why you're here. And so one day Jason and I Googled it to see what would come up, and that's when we found the article. It's I think like newengland.org, it's the online publication that Yankee magazine does. And I believe this year is like the 6th or 7th year that, yes, we have been named one of the top orchards in all of New England. So they pick 2 farms, or 2 orchards from every New England state, and there are 2 listed for the state of Maine, us being one of them.
So what are like the categories? How do you get to be one of the best orchards?
I'm not sure. I think it has to do with maybe our variety. Right now we're raising roughly 70 different varieties. We specialize in heirloom apples. Some of them are hard to find. The Martha apples we have are really popular with the kids. And they're a smaller snack size apple. To our knowledge, we're the only orchard that still has these remaining.
So you kind of specialize in heirloom apples. Of course, you've got a lot of the more modern names too, but
Yep.
Does that make you pretty unique?
It does. And what's funny is, Jason and I have been doing this for 27 years now. And when we came in and started rehabbing the farm and bringing it back to life, because it had sat for 26 years before that, there was nobody left in the family to run it. And so we wanted to bring these trees back. These trees had been here long before us. Who were we to get rid of them? A lot of these varieties we knew nothing about. And we worked a lot with John Bunker, who's an apple historian here in the state of Maine, to help identify them and figure out what they were. But there were holes, there were skips in the orchard, and that's where we planted new varieties like Honeycrisp and Pink Ladies or Brayburns and Paula Reds, things that weren't original here to the farm.
Now, eventually, we're going to walk around. Fortunately, even though it's a great day, it's not raining, so we're able to walk around and look at some of the apples, and maybe you can help identify them and give us certain aspects of the apples.
Yeah.
Because with 70 varieties, I mean, I know the basic ones, the McIntosh, the Northern Spies, the things like that, but you've got some pretty interesting ones that I have never heard of. One of them that I read was like the original apple of the farm, called Ben Davis.
Yes.
And I had no clue what that is, but that, and apparently it's not grown by many other places anymore. And you still had, I don't know whether you still do, but based on the article I read, you still have an original Ben Davis tree?
We do. It's a grafted tree. We did have two original ones. Of course, these trees are very old. Sometimes we can't save them. One was taken out by a storm back a few years ago, but we still have a half of a Ben Davis tree that's original here to the farm.
So that goes back almost 200 years.
I would say those, originally it was not an orchard 200 years ago. When they started homesteading, it was more of just a giant homestead. I'm going to say the apples were started to be planted, I'm going to say probably 150 years ago or so.
Okay. Still a long time.
Yep, this whole side of the road that we're on now, which is the barn side, was all Ben Davis trees. And with Ben Davis, particularly, you can't eat them right off, which there are other varieties like that. A Red Delicious, you can't eat directly off the tree. They need time to cure.
Okay.
But Jason's ancestors used to pack them into old cider barrels. They would go into downtown Skowhegan and be put onto the train and shipped down into Boston, where they would take them off of the train in Boston, put them onto the ships, and they would be sent out to England. By the time they traveled all those months, and reached England, they'd be good then for processing to make juices or baking or pies, and they would then be in season to them.
Is that why they kind of fell out of favor? Because now everyone's expecting instant results. When the thing comes out, you can immediately eat it off the tree, right?
Yeah, and back then too, the diversity came here because there was some winter injury. They got a really cold winter, that killed off some of the trees. That's when McIntosh and some of these other varieties were starting to become popular. And so that's when they started expanding the variety here.
Okay. And with 70 different varieties, and I understand you've got roughly 1,200 trees.
Yeah, there's probably close to about 1,400 trees now.
1,400.
Mainly of them, most of them are apples, but we also grow peaches and plums and nectarines and
all sorts of stuff.
all sorts of stuff.
You have blueberries too?
We do. We have blueberries and raspberries. Most of those we pick and I harvest and turn them into jams for the shop here.
So your shop right now, as I mentioned previously, today's September 22nd. So you open, what, September 1st on a full-time basis?
Yes. So we are here September 1st until Thanksgiving, 9 to 5 every day. As long as there's apples on the trees, then we offer pick your own. Of course, we have all these beautiful varieties set up here in the shop too, so you don't have to just pick. Yeah, and then we fill the shop with other goods from local crafters or farms. I'm really about the support local movement, and I love to fill my space with local goods.
Yeah, I can see that. There's a lot of goods, and we'll identify those here in a minute, from a lot of other farmers and vendors here in the area. You're also a very active participant in the Skowhegan Farmers Market, where farmers come from all over central Maine to participate. Every Saturday, right? You're there every Saturday. I think that's 9 to 1 down at the Gristmill parking area.
Yep, so you can find me. We'll start picking apples usually, or different fruits about mid-August. So before we open here at the shop, you can find me at the Skowhegan Farmers Market. You can find me all through the fall and into the winter too, when we move into our winter market, which is at Boynton's Greenhouse on the first and third Saturday of every month from 10 to 1. And we take all of our stuff, and there's a great selection of other fruits and vegetables and cheeses and breads that attend the market too.
So you sell here at the farm, and you also sell at the farmer's market.
Yep.
How else do you distribute your apples?
So we do some direct wholesale. We send apples and cider to the hospital here in town for their cafeteria. We supply all of the apples to the Skowhegan or MSA D54 school district for their lunch program. We also have been an avid partner in the Healthy Kid Pack program, which the school district does. Every kindergartner in the district gets a backpack full of healthy snacks and goods every Friday to take home. And so we put a different apple in there so that they can see some of these different varieties and colors and shapes of the apples. Or they might have a pint of cider in there. So we've been doing that for a number of years. And local grocery stores. We supply Hannaford here in Skowhegan. We do the Hinckley School and some other outlying direct markets. George's Banana Stand here has been a long supporter of us.
Good. Now, during a typical day during the busy season, which is right now, what are you doing? I mean, you're here tending the store.
Yep.
Are you also delivering?
Yeah, I do all the deliveries for our farm. It's something that Jason and I feel very strongly about, whether you're coming to the farmer's market or you're coming here to our retail location or you're a wholesale buyer, that you deal with one of us, the growers, directly. So I do all the deliveries for our farm. I do those before. Usually we open here at the shop, get that all done and out of the way. I'm traveling to Pittsfield or Oakland, Waterville area some days, and then come back and I'm right here at the shop tending to customers, or we're bagging apples, making cider, whatever needs to be done this time of year.
Now, when you're delivering to the stores, do they want just the regular apples, the McIntosh and the Cortlands and things like that, or do they occasionally take specialty apples?
Some of them do. Uncle Dean's, like some of the heirloom varieties and things of that nature. We do, mostly into the grocery stores, it is your traditionals, Mac's, Cortlands, Honeycrisp, McCowan's, Empires, things that everybody knows about.
Now, as I said, we're right in the middle of the busy season now, but this is really a year-round operation.
It is.
Okay, and so kind of take us through the year, talk a little bit about now, but also during what you would consider probably the off-season of the business. What do you guys do?
Well, I wouldn't say there's necessarily an off-season. It is year-round work. So right now we're in the heart of the harvest. We're picking, bringing them in, putting them into storage. We're not treating or gassing any of our fruit for storage either, which is huge. We believe in growing apples for their season. So there's a summer, fall, and winter season to apple varieties. They get put into giant walk-in coolers, refrigerators, and that's how we store them. We will continue to pack out for the farmers market and our grocery stores until we run out, which is sometimes February or March. The first of the year, Jason starts pruning, and like we said, with about 1,400 trees, it takes him most of the winter, and he hand prunes every tree in our farm. Gets that done about springtime, and then once the snow's melted, we start doing our fertilizer regimen, which is always all organic, and just orchard cleanup, things like that, chopping brush, fertilizing, and getting the orchard ready for a new season. During those winter months, I'm doing the deliveries to the stores, I'm going to farmers market, and that's when I make all of my hard cider. During the off season, and then kind of hoard that away for us to have here in the fall too.
Tell me a little bit about the hard cider thing. What's the process of that? So
we press it just like we do our regular cider. And then it's all natural. I'm not putting any sugars, I'm not putting any preservatives or sulfites. It's 100% pure. It takes me roughly about 8 to 10 weeks to turn over a batch. It's an artisan English cider.
Are you selling that in stores too?
Not at this time because I can't even keep enough in my own shop.
That's popular.
It is very popular. We do the Brew Fest every year, so that's about the only outreach I do with that.
How did that go, by the way?
It was amazing. I love doing that event, the downtown, just to see all the life in the downtown and everybody's so happy and, you know, showcasing all these other Maine wineries and breweries and distilleries. It's a good commodity.
Yeah, it brings a lot of people, and apparently the beer lovers look for these festivals and are willing to travel, in some cases, very long distances to come to stuff like this.
You know, as a vendor who sets up there, I can tell who those are. They have, you know, special little holders for their glass down here when they're not tasting beers, or some of them have crocheted to put handles on their tasting glasses. They don't mess around about their brew fests.
Yeah. By the way, I wasn't here to do a beer show here today, but that's another show. We may do that down the road here too. So, okay, so we're standing in the store area, I guess. Do you want to kind of take us around a little bit and show us the different products you have on hand? And some of these are from outside vendors.
Yep.
And what do we have over here?
So our honey sticks don't come locally. There isn't a place where I can source them because of the equipment. But these are very popular with the adults and the kids. They're little straws that are filled with different flavors of honey.
Do you make your own honey?
We have a beekeeper, Al Corson, who lives about 1.5 miles up the road from here, and he tends a couple hives here on our farm, his place, and another location that's a little more in town, Skowhegan. And when we check out the honey, you'll see that the honey has different colored caps, and that lets us know from what location the honey is coming from, but it's all raw and it's all local.
Sounds good.
Yep.
And I see maple stuff here, maple.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of the hard and the soft maple candies. We have a lady who makes these beautiful, if you could only smell them, they smell like Maine spruce. Satchels, we have different dips, caramel dips, screen printed from North Circle.
Yep.
Studio, she's amazing. She hand draws out all these prints and then screen prints them. We have produce bags, we have napkins and hand towels that are all made by her, tote bags. We carried the Bankery's amazing soaps and candles here. North Shore Notions, it makes different things every year. This year we have beautiful scrunchies made by her. We have some keychains.
Nice.
Yep. Our oldest daughter, Cortland, is dabbling in the gourmet candy apple world, so we have her candy apples here too.
Nice. You know, there's a lot of talent around this area. You can see it on display here.
Yep.
What do we have up above? All the ribbons. Those are all prizes that you won or something? Or?
Yes. So every one of those hangers is 1 year's worth of ribbons. And they all come from the Skowhegan State Fair. It's something that Jason and I feel really strongly about as an agricultural business in Skowhegan, and Skowhegan being the longest agricultural running fair. It feels like it's hand in hand that we participate in that every year. So we take our varieties. They're not ready at that time when we go there, but they judge them accordingly. And so all the ribbons are from the judgings every year.
Okay. And this looks good over here.
Yeah, so this was great. Elaine's Bakery, she's up in Milo, so they come down and get our apples and our cider, and in return they bring me fresh apple cider donuts.
Ooh.
Bismarcks and pies.
These look dangerous. I may have to buy some later.
They are really good. And then, talking about what we do all year, this is what I do all summer. So we have gardens here on site and all of our fruit. And I turn them all into jams and jellies and pickles and other goods for the shop. Everything is grown right here on the farm and harvested right here.
So what types of jams and jellies do you have?
Oh, right now I have a plum, I have apple butter, I have a peach, I have a sweet cherry, I have a cherry rhubarb, a blueberry, raspberry. We do bread and butter pickles. I do a zucchini relish and sour mustard pickles also. Even the hot sauce is made at One Drop Farm, which is about 1.5 miles up the road from here. She grows everything, and then it's blended with our apples and pears to take just a little bit of the kick off. It's definitely a favorite and a staple in our house.
How spicy?
I mean, it's got a kick to it, but I wouldn't say it's like too spicy. I eat it. I love it.
I might buy some. I got to find out whether my wife could tolerate it or not. We'll see.
I mean, I tolerate it. Our daughter eats it. Our 10-year-old daughter eats it. So
Yeah.
it's not too bad, but it is definitely very popular.
And let me see, what do we got over here? Some honey?
Yep. So these are all the honeys, and like I said, the different color caps let us know where those are all coming from.
Have you various wood artwork in the background here?
Yeah, so these are made by Karen, and she's been doing primitive signs for us this year. She also has made like the little gnomes that you'll see on the shelves around too. Collects old barn boards from around the area and then, paints them up and makes them all pretty. We have another lady that does toll painting, which are on the slates. And the cool thing about these slates too, and she writes on the back of every one of them, they're a little piece of history. These all the slates that came off from the Park School, which we all know now to be the New Balance outlet store.
Oh, yes.
So each one of these slates are about just over 100 years old.
Yep.
So we have another crafter, Pam, who makes all these beautiful little knit hats for kids. We have some that look like pumpkins. We have a basket over here of little apple ones. We have some sea glass jewelry that's being made by a lady down on the coast. So she collects all the sea glass. She doesn't tumble it or drill it. She just simply leaves it in its natural form. There's always a little bit of everything. Like we have a lady who makes all these beautiful different cups and tumblers, and she even makes koozies and pop sockets for cell phones, keychains.
Nice. So this is not just an Apple store. You've got a little bit of everything in here, really.
Yeah, I like to try to call us a local store.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I'm all about showcasing the local talent that we have around here. There are so many crafters, and especially now with everything going on, they can't really do craft shows or other things. So to fill my shop and showcase that is really pretty special.
We have, and now I'm standing in front of the apples themselves, and in a minute we're also going to go out in the field and see apples on trees. And what are these huge ones over here?
So these are pretty popular. These are one of our heirloom varieties, and they're called Wolf River.
Wolf River.
They are a baking apple, so they tend to be a little drier, a little tartar. They make amazing baked stuffed apples because, they're huge. So even after you core them out, you still have an apple. And again, make beautiful pies. The Wealthies are also an heirloom baking variety right now. I like to call them the miniature Wolf Rivers because they'll bake just like a Wolf River does. And a little fun fact about those is they were trying to, an agriculturist named Gideon was trying to come up with an apple variety that would sustain Minnesota, and sent, we're talking about back in like the 1800s, sent his last $8 to a pomological person in Bangor and got back scion wood and seed, and so really the Wealthies originate from Bangor, Maine.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting. Now, they are, basically a baking apple. Can you eat them?
You
okay?
can. People do eat both of these varieties, but like I said, they're drier, they're tartar, so they're not as flavorful as, let's say, a Mac would be.
Now, you got Cortlands.
Yep, Macs and Cortlands are in right now, which are, everybody's true staple when people think about apples. Cortlands are going to tend to hold their shape a little more when you bake them. Macs will tend to break down a little more. A lot of people like to mix them, but they're a good all-purpose apple.
Now, you've got apples that are coming out anywhere from late August all the way through mid-October.
Yeah, there's some varieties that we won't even pick until just before the last hard frost. We like to maybe grow some things around here that they tell us we can't, so we grow Granny Smiths here. We have a variety called Autumn Gold. Some of the old heirloom, even russet varieties are one of the last things we pick.
Those tend to be a more warmer climate than this.
Yes.
Ordinarily.
So like for our Granny Smiths, for instance, you see them in the grocery store, they're just a bright green color. Well, ours get this beautiful red cheek to them because of our cool nights, which typically don't necessarily happen up in Washington State where a lot of them are grown.
Yeah, a little more temperate.
Yep. But I feel like it makes them more flavorful. It doesn't take away from their tartness or what people would think, but I think it makes them more beautiful and flavorful.
Now, you charge by the bag, right?
We do.
As opposed to a weight thing. You're not putting it on a scale.
Right. The only thing that we do by the pound is our Honeycrisp. It's a specialty apple. We like to call them like our toddlers of the farm. They just need a little bit more attention than some other varieties, but everything else is done by the bagful. And we encourage our customers to mix and match their varieties if they want. With as many as we're growing, we want you to try new things too.
70 varieties, you got plenty of options here.
We do, but they come and go in season. So summer season stuff like Paula Reds or Ginger Golds and Zestar, those are gone for the season. Now we're working on coming into fall apples, Macs, Cortlands, Wolf Rivers. Next will be McCowans and Empires. And so usually about the first part of October is when you have your best selection in the field for pick your own.
Okay.
And as we start harvesting things, both sides of this apple display will just be surrounded in different varieties throughout the season.
Now, what, say, percentage of people are pick your own people versus just coming in and getting a bag full of apples?
It varies. I would say it's probably 50-50. We have some customers that come in as a whole family. There's 10, 15 of them. They go out to the fields and spend an afternoon doing the whole pick your own thing with the family and playing with the kids. But they're here every week and might just come in and grab their bag of Macs and off they go.
You don't do hay rides here, do you?
We do hay rides on Saturday afternoons and all day on Sunday.
Okay. Because that's a fun family thing.
It is a fun family thing. We also, when we walk around later, I'll show you some other fun things that we have hanging out in the orchard for the families and the kids.
Oh, okay. We got more apples. Oh, here's the Blondies.
So Blondies are a newer variety that's out, and they are actually an albino gala. So they're a very hard, dense, sweet apple.
Sweet, yeah. And Honeycrisp.
Honeycrisp have gained a lot of popularity over the years. And these apples, when harvested correctly and stored correctly, would stay in your refrigerator for a year and will not go soft or lose their texture or flavor at all. They're also a low acid apple, so they don't tend to brown as easily.
Okay. And then, what are these? Martha's crab apples? Is that what they are?
Well, we like to call them a snack apple.
Snack apple.
Because, when you say crab apple, people go to that space in their head where they don't think it's any good. But these have a thin skin to them. You can see they're like the perfect size. They're very popular with the kids. I put them in my daughter's lunchbox.
Yeah.
And they're sweet. They're a little tart. They have an amazing flavor to them. But you can process them just like you would any crab apple too. They make the most beautiful fluorescent pink jelly.
Now, this is an heirloom apple?
This is an heirloom variety also, yes.
Yeah. Well, what else do we have? Oh, all the ciders.
Yeah. So, because it's a little steamy today, everything's, but yeah, we do all of our own ciders right here on site. We use a water bladder system to do all of our pressing. And you know, we have them anywhere from pints and quarts, half gallons and gallons.
Yeah, so all sorts of variety, and cheese curds there I see too.
Yep, so we stock Crooked Face Creamery's cheese curds.
Yep.
Which are also very popular here, apples and cheese. I mean,
by the way, she's a future show, so this is kind of a privilege. Okay, how about here?
Yeah, so here's those scrunchies. You know, they're all hand sewn right here in Smithfield. Some more of North Circle's beautiful things, napkins, some more sea glass. We have, you know, of course, the apple peelers. People don't want to peel all their apples by hand, so we have those on site too. Even some little cookie cutters if you want to make your pie crust fancy, or just, you know, some cool little cookies along the way.
And then we got pumpkins and and squash. Okay.
Yeah. So all of our pumpkins, our squash, all of what I like to say are fall fun stuff, gourds, corn stalks. It all comes out of the Ring Farm based out of Canaan. And Dan and his family are amazing. We love working with them because when you purchase these things from us, the 100% of that money is going back to the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
That's fantastic.
It is. So we have the pie pumpkins, we got white pumpkins, gourds. It's still a little early in the season for squash. We do have some buttercup in right now, but over time we'll get like some baby blue Hubbards and some butternut and all kinds of different varieties that way too.
Well, buttercup must be the most popular squash out there.
It is, yes.
Well, we want to talk a little bit about the process of making apple cider, and do you pasteurize it?
So we do. So like I was saying earlier, we work on a bladder system. So all the apples get ground up. They go into these big giant, they almost look like barrels.
Yeah.
That are perforated on the side. All the pumice goes into there, and a bladder from the inside, like a balloon, pushes all of the juice out to the edges.
Okay.
It collects in a tray and gets taken off to our holding tank.
Okay.
And then from a holding tank, it runs through our pasteurizing unit, which we like to say UV treated, never heated. And so it runs it through a UV light. If anything bad was present in the cider, this UV light would zap it and kill any of the bad bacteria. And then it goes into our bottling tank, and everything is bottled by hand and capped by hand.
How long a process is this to do it?
It takes all day. You're grinding first thing in the morning, but then the process is really, while we're doing cleanup or prepping jugs, to be jugged, things like that. We're doing cleanup. While the presses run, they have to run for so many hours to make sure that you get all the juice out.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move outside.
All right.
Okay, we're getting ready to go out in the field and walk around and see all the different varieties of apples. I don't know if we'll get to all 70, but we'll get to some of them anyways. And here we are at the front of is this the front or the back, actually?
Well, I guess it depends on which way you look at it. This is what we call the top side here. This is a storefront where people can come in and out for the retail store. The other side of the barn is our packing house and our storage, where all the trailers are coming in with apples, or they're going into coolers, or boxes are going into the back of the truck for me to do deliveries on the other end.
Okay. And these are more Ring Farm pumpkins. Looks as though they had a pretty good year.
Yeah, it's not going to be our best year for pumpkins overall because of all of this rain that we've been having lately. It really has hurt some of the vine crops a little bit, but they are still beautiful. Lots of corn stalks and pumpkins and lots of fall stuff.
And I kind of asked this earlier, but exploring a little more, the rain and the cool weather that we had, cooler than normal in July into August, because we started out with this dry, sunny, very warm summer, and then all of a sudden the rain started. How overall did that impact you?
So, having those cool nights and the really nice sunny days early in the season, that's what helps with the color of the apples. So, and when we got the rain that came in later in the season, a lot of our stuff was at full color and full size in July before it was even ready. So now getting more rain, more, warm days and cool nights is really making them very happy.
Okay, then you're doing well then.
Yeah.
Line.
Yep.
Okay, so let's walk around and maybe you can identify some of the trees, the apples, how sweet they are, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, so I'll grab a card too, and then we can check that out as we go.
Probably those kids are all grown up now.
Yeah.
20. Does that thing have a timer on it, John?
It does for each, but it restarts when I stop and start.
I'm thinking 22 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, by the way, we don't have to be precisely an hour. This
Right.
is not such a. I try to keep it to
Okay.
about an hour, but if we run over, fine. If we run under, we make it work. And then John puts his drone up there, and we put a little music in the background. Everything's good.
Yeah.
So, okay. Where do we want to start?
I mean, we can start anywhere. So, you know, for us, you have me, your personal guide, to tell you where everything is. But if you came in and on your own with the family to pick apples, we would give you one of these.
Okay.
So everything we do here, we do on a color coordinated system because there are so many varieties and they ripen so differently. This is a great way for the customers to know what they're getting and when the season is for those. Because like you can see here, these little trees all along the side of the apple house are Ida Reds. They would be considered a winter variety. You'll notice that none of them have ribbons on them right now because they're not ready yet. We won't start picking these until October sometime.
Okay.
And these would be considered a storage apple. And believe it or not, these trees are close to 25 years old.
That type of apple, the trees don't get that big.
Right, these would be considered dwarf trees.
Okay.
Where like if you look over here to some of these bigger trees, and you'll notice as we walk around that there are big trees and there are little trees. These big ones are ones that are original here to the farm, and they are what we call standard trees.
Okay. So what's the color codes again? How does that work?
So the cheat sheet will tell you all of that.
Okay.
So we, you know, like across the street, you can see all the beautiful pink ribbons flying on these smaller dwarf trees. And those let you know that those are Cortlands.
Okay.
You know, if you were to look at the card, you'd say, oh, I found pink ribbons. Those are Cortlands.
Okay.
Gotcha. Or I find trees that have purple ribbons on them. Those are Macintosh. Blue ribbons are Honeycrisp. And so everything is color coordinated so they know what they're picking.
Okay, gotcha.
Trees that don't have ribbons on them are ones that are varieties that just aren't ready yet.
What are the ones that are ready right now?
So right now we have Max, Cortlands, Honeycrisp, Gala. This weekend we're going to flag the Wolf Rivers out in the Pick Your Own, and really it's all weather dependent. Mother Nature is in charge around here. The cooler nights we get, you know, if we were to get a frost tomorrow, we might start ribboning off Macallans or Empires. We need those cool nights or a frost that helps turn their starches to sugar and really develop the flavors that we know in these apple varieties.
So who goes around and samples and makes sure they're ready to go?
Jason and I.
Yeah. You take a bite out of one, is that how you do it?
Well, we do. We bite them to make sure that their flavor and their texture is where we want it to. But another fun fact about apples, you know, for people who might not be as familiar with them, if you cut your apple open and your seeds inside of your apple are brown, if they're solid brown, the apple is perfectly ripe. It won't store that long, but it's at its peak. Okay. If you get your seeds where they're 3/4 brown with a little bit of white to them, they're great for storage. So you get them into your refrigerators, which apples should always be kept in refrigeration, always.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Tell me something, speaking of refrigeration, the techniques on refrigeration have improved a lot over the years, and now you can actually get apples in midwinter that taste fresh or fresher. Tell me, what's your refrigeration process?
So we keep all of our apples at about 34 to 35 degrees. That is when they are the happiest. And like I was saying earlier, we grow apples for their season. So when we're taking apples to market in February, March, even January, those are winter varieties like the Ida Reds or Enterprise, Granny Smith, russet varieties. And that's why they taste so fresh and so good.
Okay.
A lot of time what's happening with most grocery store apples is that they're being treated
Oh, okay.
in order for their storage, and that's something that Jason and I just do not believe in here.
Okay, you're kind of the all-natural process.
We do, like Mac is a fall apple. It really shouldn't go any more into January. At that point, they're going to be softer, they're going to be sweeter, but their life is kind of at an end at that point.
So what we're getting at the Winter's Farmers Market are the ones that developed in October.
Yes.
Much, yeah.
And I like to say that, for people, let's say Macintosh, for instance, they come to us early in the season and they're like, Macs are my favorite. You want to eat something like an early Mac or a Milton or something like that in the summer, for your summer season apple. Then you have your Macs. And once Macs are gone at the first of the year, I would recommend something like an Enterprise. We like to call those like our winter Macs. Everything has like a brother and a sister to it.
Okay. Okay. Do we want to walk around and look at some other apples?
Yeah, sure. Let's go check some stuff out.
So we're going to look at some heirloom apples, right?
Yeah.
Here's one.
Here is one of them. This particular tree, and this one won't get harvested till October sometime. This is called a famuse, or as commonly a snow apple. This is the parent to Macintosh. So they actually won't get much bigger than this. They're more of a smaller, petite-sized apple. They tend to be tender crisp, but when they're cut open, their flesh is as white as snow inside. They have a very sweet flavor to them.
They're not a particularly large apple.
They are not, no. They tend to be smaller in size. I mean, these are already full size. They have some time, and with all that rain, they definitely will get bigger, but they do tend to be a smaller apple.
Okay. Let's walk down this row, I guess.
Whereas like you get to this tree up here on the left, this is a Wolf River tree. Okay. Like the ones that we were looking at in the store.
Look at how the branches are bent over the weight of these apples.
Isn't it amazing how, something so small can hold so many apples? They're very, very strong.
Do you have to thin fruit?
We do thin fruit. That's what Jason spends a lot of time in the summer doing, is taking out clusters so that we can get, size and color into our crop.
Now, all the pruning work that you do off-season must increase the production quite a bit, right?
It does. Your fruit quality and your set from your tree is only going to be as good as the tree that's growing it.
Do you prune every single tree every year?
We prune every single tree every year.
And how many trees? 1,400? Is that what
Roughly about 1,400 trees.
So you said Jason's doing this. This is his winter job.
This is his winter job, yep. And he loves that time of year. He's very happy when it's 20 degrees and he's out here in a t-shirt because he's working so hard with all of his equipment. That's his happy place.
What type of equipment do you use on a farm?
Well,
do you pick apples, for example.
Well, we can check out Drew is down here picking apples. We have special ladders. All of our apples, we like to joke, look like an A because they're apple picking ladders. We have special buckets that they wear that have hooks that drop the bottom and the top up. So when they're up in the top, they fill up their buckets. Okay. It keeps all the apples inside. They, come down off the ladder and they drop their bucket slowly into an apple box. We do everything in still old-fashioned apple boxes. Okay. And then they can take the strings off the side, and when they pick up their bucket slowly, all the apples go into the box.
I got it, yeah.
On all the trailers, and then the trailers again go into the apple house and get hand graded. Every apple passes through mine or Jason's hands before it goes off to a customer.
So you're individually looking at each apple?
At every apple, yes.
Do you ever go cross-eyed doing this?
No, each one, they're our children. I guess you could say the trees are our children and the apples are our grandchildren. So, we love every single one. Each one is unique in its own way, and if something, might have gotten too much branch rub on it and doesn't look so pretty, then that's something that would go into a cider box that we make cider out of.
Somehow I can picture these big industrialized operations where the apples are just flowing through these conveyor belts, where you guys are literally individually looking at every single apple.
Yeah, and you're right with that, Chris. So, the big commercial growers, some of them even have like laser systems that detect if something's wrong and, push the apple off. It's Jason and I.
So you guys really, this is a lot of work when I think about what you do during the course of the year, and particularly right now.
Yeah, we're thankful every day that we get to do what we love. You have to work most of your life, so why not do something that you love to do? And so we get to do that, and then we get to share it with all of our customers and see those generations. I was having a conversation with a customer just yesterday, and I said it's pretty rewarding. Jason and I have been doing this for 27 years, and we do all the kindergarten field trips for our school district. So these kindergartners that first started coming to us 25 years ago or so are now coming back here onto the farm to pick with their families and bringing their kids.
Yeah.
And so to continue to just be part of that generation and watch these families just continue to grow is pretty special.
Now, going to the kindergarten thing, last week, I guess, you had tours going on. So you bring in all the kindergarten children. What do? Take them around the farm and identify apples to them?
Yeah, so we talk about, what we do here in a season to grow them. I show them the little trick about, slicing open the apple and the star, and we play, we talk about the equipment. So one of the favorite things that the kids love is the picking buckets. I pick an apple and I drop it in my bucket and it falls out the bottom, and they try to help me solve how to make this bucket whole so we don't lose all our apples, and we figure that out together, and they think it's magical. And
that must be a lot of fun.
It is, and they get to take a hayride around the farm and check things out, and then we all sit together and munch on an apple and drink some cider.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Good way to introduce them to apples at a young age.
It is.
Get them on a healthy diet, right? All right, let's look at some other apples.
All right, so as we go down through this way, you'll see the Goldens here that we're approaching into. And everything is planted here all over the place. You might have a Mac here or a Cortland here and some Goldens here. And, there's another Wolf River tree over there. Like I was saying earlier, we kept the older trees that we could, and we planted in the spacings. Like as you see, we're surrounded by big trees here, but have a little row of Goldens in front of us.
So that makes it seem more like a family business, I guess, because you have it kind of a mishmash of different things as opposed to these long lines of the same thing.
Right, and it makes it more fun when the families are out here and they're exploring and they're picking and doing things. They want to be out in the orchard. They want to, and so there again is part of our ribbon system. They walk up, oh look, there's that orange and white, tell me it's a Milton tree. And so they can mix those varieties into their bags and try everything along the way.
Where is this Ben Davis tree or Ben Davis trees? Is it within a short walk, or we got to?
Well, it's down there in that corner of the field, but we can head down that way if you want to.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, so now we're standing in front of an Empire apple tree, and these are really dark, almost purplish in color. So to kind of describe this apple.
So this is probably ultimately my favorite apple. They're very hard, they're dense, and they're tart. We do call these our purple apples. And funny enough, their parentage is Macintosh and Red Delicious.
Yeah.
And to look at them, they don't look like either one of those varieties. Another fun thing, fact about apples is that if we picked this Empire apple and we took all the seeds out and planted them, you're going to get a standard tree.
Yeah.
Because every seed inside of an apple is something different.
Okay.
because of the cross-pollination. The bees have gone from, you know, the Honeycrisp to the Martha tree to the Snow tree. If you count the seeds inside of your apple when you open it, it will tell you how many times a bee successfully pollinated that one flower.
That's interesting. So you could get just about anything.
Yeah, so that's how new apple varieties are, you know, come up with, I guess you could say. There are orchards that just strictly plant seeds and wait a very long time. You know, from seed, you're not going to get apples probably for 15 to 20 years at best.
So this is something I didn't know, and we'll give some credit to our cameraman behind the scenes, John Harlow, station manager, who brought this up, and very interesting fact.
Yeah, it is super fun. I talk about that with the kids when we're doing our school trips.
Yeah.
You know, just had this conversation with a customer the other day too. Like, everybody thinks this Honeycrisp is being kind of a newer variety that's been out there, but it actually came to development and started hitting the markets back in the 70s.
Yeah. Okay, we're in the hunt for the Ben Davis tree.
All right.
We're heading there now.
Talking about
Well,
that.
Let's stop here then. Okay, we're not to the Ben Davis tree yet, but describe what's going on here.
So we have hung some swings throughout our orchard. Like I said earlier, I've got some stuff hanging out here for the families and the kids to play with. We got a tire swing too, and it's just fun when they're out here wandering around. We don't necessarily tell people, so I guess you guys are the first to find out that they're here. I call them our treasures, and the kids come back so excited, and Miss Heather, I found a swing, and so there's a bunch of them placed all over the orchard for families and the kids to find, and we've propped up some apple bins along the way for them to hang out on, have a picnic, rest their bags while the kids are climbing and playing.
That's neat. Okay, on to Ben Davis. Color code.
Yep. I mean, we can, again, like our children, we know them, you know, so like all of these here are Honeycrisp. And the trees will grow different too. Like we like to say Cortlands. They definitely hang their branches even without fruit on them.
Yep.
So we joke how they say like, do my nails. Each one, they have different, you know, characteristics. This little tree over here that has these tiny bright colored fruit on them is an heirloom variety called Siberian Crab. And that is actually one of the parents to the Wealthies that we looked at when we were in the shop talking about things. So these would be a crab apple that aren't necessarily good as a hand and eater like the Marthas are, but they make amazing jelly.
Some of your jellies are from those?
No. This time of year I don't have time to process anything. All my attention has to be right here on the crop and the harvest.
Okay.
We have some Cox Orange Pippins up here on our left, which is another heirloom variety. And as you can see, different trees are ribboned off in different colors again for people to pick. Some of the standard trees here, we have some that are 100 years old.
What's the average length of time an apple tree lasts?
I mean, I would say indefinitely, because again, if you're pruning them, you're taking care of them, they're going to get new wood, you know, and looking at some of our older trees, you can see that the trunks and the base of them are, you know, flaky bark, and you can tell they're very old. But if you look into the tops, you see all the new red wood.
Yeah.
So while the trunk and the base might be, you know, 100 years old, you know, tiny wood like this is maybe, you know, 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
A lot of these you can see on the bottom.
Yep.
The graft line.
Yep, the old graph lines. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what those are. And, well, watch out for
How
the...
many trees on the property, John?
Yeah, a good number. Not a ton, but definitely enough to keep me busy this time of year.
Ben Davis.
Right here?
Yep.
Is this the original one, or?
So this is half and half. So this side of the tree, because of grafting, so maybe this is a good way to put it, you know, to go into that. This tree was originally a Ben Davis tree. These are Ben Davis apples, original to the farm. But how we, I don't want to say manipulate varieties, but how we change things, because, you know, like I said, we can't plant seeds, we'll never get apples in time.
Yep.
We do a lot of grafting.
Okay.
And this is a tradition that's been going on for a long time, because if you come to this other side of the tree here, you'll see that there's Macintosh on this. So when they were starting to experiment with bringing the Macs into the farm, this was a good way to start it. You have your tree. I mean, you couldn't graft a tree this old now, but like if you look here, you can actually see how this is bigger on the bottom and thinner on the top.
Oh, I see, yeah.
This is the old graft
Graft
union,
line, yep.
right here and right here. So the top of this tree was grafted into Max, and this leader was, but you have to keep what they call nurse limbs,
Yeah.
which is where the Ben Davis came in. They never took the nurse limb back off.
Okay, gotcha.
That's also,
That's why we got a part of a Ben Davis
Yep.
tree. Yep.
like you can look in those, you know, fancy catalogs, or you'll see them sometimes in nurseries where they advertise apple trees that grow, you know, 3 different colors, green, yellow, and red. This is how they do it, by grafting.
Okay. Are you doing a lot of grafting here?
Yes, so the orchard's pretty planted full at this point. You know, of course, with working with trees this old, we do lose a couple every once in a while, but we do a lot of grafting. We're bringing back old varieties that weren't necessarily established here on the farm, like a black Oxford or some of the russet varieties. Frostbite is one of those old varieties that we're bringing back through grafting too.
So you're looking for these old heirloom apples to bring back then?
Yeah, some of them, and you know, been doing this as long as we have an idea. You know, we have the older generations that come in and say, I haven't had a, and so some of them aren't quite producing yet because they may have just been grafted a few years ago, but yes, we work very closely with John Bunker to work as almost like a historic orchard also.
Okay. So what's the future here of the farm? I mean, you've got kids and you've got grandkids.
Yep.
Is the Cayford, or Davis in this case, name going to keep going on for years to come here?
I mean, I would like to think so. Jay and I think are still fairly young. We're not willing to give it up anytime soon, but yeah. Yep, Jason and I are Davis, but his mother was my mother-in-law, is a Cayford, and this was all Cayford land. All of our children are named after apple varieties. I mean, we love what we do.
So the kids, or any of them want to stay and keep?
Yeah, so our son works off the farm now for another local business. He actually works making the Maine cedar hot tubs.
Yeah.
But during the harvest of the season, he leaves his job to come here and be full-time on the farm and help with the harvest.
Okay.
And then, like I said, our oldest, Cortlands, has gone off to college. She's an RT, but she lives right here on the farm. She's raising our grandbabies here. But she's the one that's making all the gourmet candy apples for the farm right now.
Okay.
And then we have Liberty. She's going to be 10 this fall. But still, she's here helping out, doing things, and says that she's going to do that. So I'd love to see all of our kids stay involved. Even our grandson, you know, he's going to be 5, and he is cider control is what he calls himself. And he helps to sort all the cider apples into special boxes before they go to the press house. So it really is a family affair. Even right down to our workers, you know, people who have been here. You heard me talking about Drew. He's been with us picking now for 20 years. We hire all locals. We don't have any foreign help coming in.
Yeah. Well, it truly is a family affair and a lot of love involved, and anybody that can eyeball a gazillion apples during the course of the year to make sure that they're okay has got to love what they're doing. Because that seems to be pretty tedious at times. But.
It can be, but like, you know, every apple is different, so it's not like we're looking at the same one every time.
Right.
I'm sure to some people they all look the same, but...
Well, we've had a wonderful tour of both your building and the apple orchard today, Heather, and I want to thank you very much for taking us around and giving us a little tutorial on apples. And with all the varieties here, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, really. So,
yep.
And I'm sure we will come back in the future and talk some more.
Yeah, I would love to have you guys again, and thanks for coming out and hanging out with me for the morning. I kind of didn't have to do any work per se today. It's fun. I get to like just talk about everything fun that we do here. But like I said earlier, things do change very rapidly around here. So people can stay really up to date on what varieties are coming in, what's getting flagged off for pick your own, what new crafters might be coming into the barn. And that's all through our Facebook page. I update that almost daily.
Okay.
About what's going on here on the farm.
And they can see you at the farmers market every Saturday 9 to 1 until end of October?
End of October is our last day at the gristmill, and then we move to the greenhouse at Boynton's starting the first Saturday in November, and we're there the first and third from 10 to 1.
Okay. Well, Heather Davis, I'd like to thank you very much for being on our program. And before I go, I just want to, I try to mention this each time, our founder is Katie Willett. Katie unfortunately can't be with us on the show anymore. Katie is in a nursing home up in Madison Maple Crest. And knock on wood, she's doing fine, and I'm sure she's going to expect a full report on this show, which I intend to give her. So anyways, thank you very much, and now you know.